Hey everybody, it's Dr. Bree, the PT, and we are your favorite senior care specialist. Well, I have a very special guest today. You know, the holidays are coming up. We have a lot of decisions to make about food, plus a lot of people are having surgeries. And I talk so much about high protein, low inflammation. So I thought having somebody that was an expert in these things on would be great. So I have Jenny Perin with me, and I will actually let her introduce herself, but she's a wealth of knowledge, and I think you guys are going to get some great tidbits today. Jenny, go ahead and introduce yourself to all our followers.
Well, I'm so excited to be here. So it's so great to, talk all things food, nutrition, low inflammation, especially since we are heading into the holidays and we're going to be surrounded with all sorts of sugar and inflammatory foods. So a little bit about me. So I am an integrative and functional nutrition health coach. I've had a practice since 2018, and I really kind of fell into this. So background was in consulting, and I started to have health complications, like what happens to many of us at a certain point. And then I really started to dive deep and signed up for all of these trainings really that taught me how to reduce inflammation, how diet and lifestyle can make an enormous difference on our path either toward chronic illness or away from it. So really excited to be here.
Bingo, guys. So when did you really start to decide? You said like you had this turning point, and kind of what age, what circumstances like led you, you know, like what was, typically we got to get pushed to a point of like, hey, I got to do something different.
Yeah. So I'll share, like many of us women, I think we've seen our moms and parents struggle health-wise. So, weight issues, arthritis issues, just other kind of chronic stuff. And, I was always told that heart disease ran in my family. So that and diabetes, that I was going to be bound, toward that, when actually, I end up learning that really, genetics, right, is only 10% of the factor, but 90% is diet and lifestyle, whether we trick those genes to, head in that direction. So I will tell you, for me, I was 43 years old at the time.
Okay.
And I am turning 50 this year, so I'm very excited.
You look.
Thank you. So 43, and I was really burnt out. So traveled a lot for work, had 2 kids, dog, house, husband, just all the things, right? Trying to be involved in everything. And I was living on caffeine. So even though I tried to make better choices, I was living on caffeine. I was eating on the road a lot more. And we know that when we control what goes into our food, we're going to end up feeling better and kind of keeping some of those inflammatory ingredients out of our diet. So I just knew it. I could kind of see the path before me, and I just decided to take the other fork in the road.
So give me a little bit of an overview of like what your business kind of looks like. Who's your ideal client? Who are you typically seeing? What are you guys doing?
Yeah. So primarily, majority of my work is one-on-one. And really, I think it's designed that way because I love that. I think that a customized approach is really important to each client. But there's the same concept, kind of core concepts for everyone. So I work one-on-one with my clients for 6 months at a time because we're in it for sustainable habit change. We are not in it for diets, quick fixes. This is like, once you can make the connection, because this is what happened to me. Once you can make the connection with how food and diet lifestyle makes you feel, and that you can choose to feel a certain way, you want to keep it up. So it's like willpower. You really don't need it once you start to make these little habit changes. So one-on-one, I do corporate wellness. So there are 2 companies where I go in and I coach their associates for those who sign up. I have groups. So tonight I have my final session for a reset group, which is a food elimination program.
Awesome.
That is a diet where 3 weeks. So we prep, 3 weeks, we take all the inflammatory foods out and then we reintroduce. So today is reintroduction day for my crew.
Awesome. Okay.
And then again, you should hear the results. I mean, it's crazy. It's not only weight loss, reduced brain fog. It's like they can sleep. Their joints feel better, all the things. So yeah, I do that. And then a lot of presentations, trainings. So I love it. It's truly like something that was a passion that it worked for me. So I just want to like spread the word.
What's the typical age of most of your clients?
Yeah, I think the typical age is really that 40 to 70 sweet spot.
Yeah.
So it's typically women who have been in some kind of professional capacity at one point in their lives. They've juggled a lot of things and they know they need to make a change and they want to and they're ready to. So the other thing is right, I can't do the work for you. No. So I empower you. I make it as easy as possible. And I think the cool thing about a really strong health coach is it's like all the logistics. Like if you say eat more vegetables, okay, eat more vegetables. But how do you incorporate that into how you typically eat, how you typically shop? When do you prep it? All that sort of stuff. And I have clients who love to cook. And I have clients who don't cook at all. And we talk rotisserie chicken and sheet pan, veggies. So we just keep it really, really simple.
Awesome. Yeah, I think too, that makes a really big difference. Meeting your client where they're at, because sometimes it's like this all or nothing principle. And then that's where I think so much failure comes in for a lot of people.
I think so too. And I think the sweet spot ultimately, so we can decide along the way of how kind of strict we want to go in the very beginning so we can feel the difference, because that is really important. But then you want to get to that 80-20, 90-10. So 80% of the time, I'm eating low inflammatory foods that keep me nice and satisfied, nice and full, and not want to reach for the cookies and the chips and the garbage. And then when you want to have the treat, you enjoy the treat. So, that's really, it's not about not ever having anything that tastes good.
Awesome. Yes. Like it's the balance of the things, not feeling like you're missing out on life too.
It is. And honestly, if we aim for perfection, I mean, you're kind of like done before you even start. So I will say, I think a lot of clients who I work with, our meetings, like they'll kind of head into it going, ooh, I had a really bad week. We'll talk about it, but it's not about shame. Right? It's not about, making anyone feel bad, because we know that doesn't motivate change, right? So it's really about, just how do we do better? What's the next, not the next day, the next meal? How can we make a better choice? So
how can we maintain consistency?
That is, right? And consistency can look like this, So right on.
Yeah. So, the population that you're talking about, what do you typically think is their biggest issue or problem? Like, what are they majorly deficient in? Is there something that they're doing that they think is okay that's really bad for them? Like, what are some of the things that you see? Yeah,
I think the biggest thing I see is that they're being intentional in a lot of other areas of their life, right?
So you typically have to be, right?
You have to be. So if they're working, they're being intentional with, the work they have to get done, with family, travel, financial planning, all of that, but they're not being intentional with their health. And so they're not prioritizing what that looks like. So we get our house ready before a work week, right? Making sure that you've got clean clothes and whatever. You go grocery shopping, maybe a little bit, but we don't, okay, let's look at the whole week. I've got an event this night. I've got this going this night. How do we plan? So I think that's number one, is like, how can we get intention back into, with our health and what we eat? That's number one. And number two, I mean, it is going to be protein, right? Because we're going to focus really on the quick grabs, and the quick grabs are super high processed starch convenient food that is going to inflame us and keep us not well.
I think you guys have maybe heard me talk about protein a time or two, and those healthy fats, and how important they are. Yeah. And we kind of touched on this. We were chatting a little bit beforehand.
Yeah.
What has your experience been with individuals and alcohol and being able to kind of opt, or maybe swap out a few things, or really start looking at what they're drinking? Like how's that process been for your clients?
So, okay, when it comes to alcohol, I think everyone's goals are a little bit different, right?
It's like a lifestyle for some people.
It is. It is. So again, got to meet them where we are. One, I want to make sure, and so I sprinkle education through every single meeting. There's an article or a little nugget of information on all these kind of items. So we address alcohol as tell me your experience with alcohol, what you currently do. How do you feel after you drink it? And do you want to make a change? What are your goals and how does alcohol align with that? So, and I think it's also about, for folks who choose to have some alcohol, again, setting your intentions for the week. So I love to look at the week. I think it's, you can, day by day is really good, but I think really looking out at the week, if you know, I've got this client meeting or a family gathering that there's going to be alcohol at, but I really only want to have, 1 or 2 drinks one night a week. All right, well, just pick which one. And then the other one, can you have a soda with lime? Can you swap out? I mean, so even like you had the Pellegrino in front. I mean, this is a staple like in my house, and you can jazz it up. I mean, there's all sorts of, little videos of ice cubes with, cranberry and orange and rosemary. And it's so pretty. You can make it, festive. Or Spindrift is my favorite flavored one, simply because it does not have natural flavors. It has the real fruit. So it's like, and I like lime and lemon because then you're not getting any added sugar. So those are my 2 favorite.
You can get these at Costco.
You can get them at Costco, Kroger, Meijer. Yeah, they all have them. So.
Awesome. Well, and 2, I think for a lot of people, it's the ritual, with so much of that for them.
And you'd be, if you're home and you are somebody who grabs a glass of wine, maybe try to swap it out for a hot tea. We're getting into cooler weather. And like there are beautiful teas where, again, as a ritual for calming down, just kind of getting in your slippers and your cozy, whatever, like have the tea. There's something special about it. Yeah.
Yeah, they're a new type of ritual. Well, and I have to imagine, too, you get them drinking tea and maybe not wine at night. They're probably seeing an improvement in their sleep patterns.
I mean, that's so alcohol and sleep. It's like, so your body cannot do anything that it needs to do when there is alcohol in your body. Your job for your body in your liver is to get the toxins out. So that means your organs are not doing what it needs to do to rest, repair, everything. So that's why we wake up after we have a drink or 2 and, feel tired. And I'm at this sweet spot of 40s to 70s, we've got like menopause in there too.
A lot going on there.
And so hormonally, it's really, really tricky. And let's face it, most alcohols are loaded with sugar, including wine.
Right? Yeah.
So
let's, it's the holidays coming up. So if we did want to have a drink, okay, and I'm not just saying wine, but like, let's say like a mixed drink. What is typically your recommendation for the quote unquote healthiest version of a drink?
Yeah. So you would want to go, silver tequila would be the number 1 best choice, like a really high quality tequila. And again, you could do an ice cube with an orange slice, some cranberries, and a sprig of rosemary. It's so pretty, and do that. And just, sip on it. Just there's very, very low sugar. I mean, like almost 0. So that would be like the number 1 choice. And then any clear liquors, like a gluten-free good vodka or something like that. That's where, but the challenge is the mixers with those kinds of alcohol. So you have to be very, very careful. Soda is a great mixer. Again, sparkling water. Yeah.
I was going to say, typically I talk to you about alcohol too all the time, like how I'm not pro it. But if I have a drink, it's typically like Patron Silver or Class A Azul, and it's like a little bit of soda water and squeeze a lime in there, and that's what I do. And actually, it's pretty dang smooth.
Yeah.
So
it is. And again, I think it's like, so a lot of the conversations I'm having with my clients right now is, okay, what's the plan for the holiday? And this is how we tackle any trip. like any travel or whatever. What is it? So most of my clients will go, all right, Thanksgiving, I'm going to enjoy maybe a cocktail. I'm going to have the dinner. I'm going to have the pumpkin pie, but I'm taking no leftovers home. It's done. And the next day I go right back. So it's one day, one meal, and then you go right back. So that seems to be the most popular strategy, but everyone has a different one. So
no, that's a great idea. Because I even know for myself, it's like if you wanted pizza or something, it's like, the leftovers just don't come home.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes.
It makes it so much easier and you do that. So talked about alcohol. What about caffeine? Because like you said, so many of us are addicted to it. And I think most people really don't understand too that like how long caffeine stays in your system and how like drinking past a certain time can really affect your quality of sleep.
It really can. So here's the challenge. And this is really why nutrition science is like so confusing for most of us, right?
And there's so much conflicting information.
There is.
It's crazy.
Well, and the reason is we're all built so differently. Our microbiome, right, is incredibly different. But here's the deal. There are slow metabolizers of caffeine, like people who are slow metabolizers. I am a slow metabolizer, meaning if I drink caffeine past 11 o'clock in the morning, I'm up all night. It stays in my system. And so it also keeps my stress hormones, my cortisol incredibly high, all of that. My grandmother, who passed away at age 93, that woman drank her little cup of coffee and she would have it in the evening and she would sleep. Like she never had an issue with sleep and she slept like a baby. She would be a fast metabolizer. She never felt the jittery, the shakiness of the caffeine. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, something else that I was reading up about it too was even if you don't necessarily feel the side effects of it, drinking it past like 1 p.m.
I don't recommend it.
Yeah. And if you're trying to go to bed at like 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
And even if you're like, I slept fine. I know they've done some studies where your quality of REM sleep actually is decreasing.
It can decrease. You're right. Yes. And that's what we are like all aiming for. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend it. Most of my clients really, it's like that 10, 11 a.m. It's like we cut it off. And again, if you're dealing with perimenopause, menopause, or shortly, it affects most of us in a negative way.
Cortisol, right?
Absolutely. Like we need more stress hormone. And again, I think back to, what kind of pushed me over the edge to like really working in this kind of environment was I was living on caffeine. I had the stress of all of life. And then I was adding on top of it, to have this additional stress through what I was eating
and then
drinking.
You're not sleeping and then everything that just comes along with that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, we're talking about sleep, talking about food. What about like time of day eating and things like that? I've read some stuff and I'm kind of big on the fasting. What has your take been on that? And what have you seen from your clients?
Yeah. So I will share with you, with my clients, I never start with fasting unless they are already fasters and somebody, who've already
worked their way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What we do start with is when can we end that last meal?
Yes.
When can we close your eating window? And ideally, right, it's 3 hours before bed.
Did you hear that? Yes.
So if we can stop, because again, same thing, if you think about sleep and alcohol, sleep and food, your body can't do what it needs to do to rest and repair if it's digesting food. So, and if weight loss is the goal too, really, like as much as we can kind of up that window, but we can work our way up to it. We don't have to do this super crazy fasting initially. I will say what's really interesting is most of my older female clients, they tend to do like 2 meals a day. And they tend to eat a little bit higher fat, incredibly low starch. And that's not for everyone, but my experience with my clients is that's what works for them. So yes.
What I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause I was going to say too, like I was always under the impression that like if you're
small
eating
little meals. Yeah.
Yes. Well, and the funny part is like, I remember when I graduated from college, I was the cardio queen and I was low fat and legitimately all I ate was like a bagel every morning with cream cheese and my Diet Coke.
Diet Coke, same thing.
Yeah. And I go get like Dole Whip ice cream and my low fat everything.
Snack rolls.
Yes. And it's funny because now I've transitioned to like a primarily like protein fat only diet and like eating in a fasting window, fasting a day a week. And it's been crazy because I had a DEXA scan done. So I had a DEXA scan done in the beginning, which if you guys don't know, so a DEXA scan, typically you hear about it for your bone density. You know, most people, the insurance covers it for that. So they're going to look at osteopenia, where it means you're losing bone density, but you're not at osteoporosis yet. But it's looking at your bones, okay? But it also looks at lean muscle mass, which means like, okay, how much muscle do I have versus like my bones and then just fat tissue. So, you know, obviously Jenny knows this, but your visceral fat, that's the stuff that's in your internal organs, the bad stuff that we're trying to combat. And then you have subcutaneous fat, which is around your muscles and your joints. Well, I went on, started eating this way, and like 6 months later, my visceral fat was 0.01%.
Wow.
And I had lost like 7 pounds of just body fat. And I went down like 5% in my body fat percent.
Isn't it crazy? I mean, so if you think about it, think about what we've been told for years and years. It's really the opposite, right? So if we focus on animal protein, especially. So I will say the other thing too is early on, I did work with vegans. Now I don't. And there's specialists who handle that. And I've got people who I refer them to, but really the way to feel great, reduce inflammation, increase your body mass, maintain your muscle, all the things is really like aim for that 30 plus grams of protein at every single meal. And animal protein will be your best friend with that. So, I've got a lot of my clients who have moved toward like ordering their meat, making sure it's the highest quality meat that they can afford and, that they enjoy. And then we build our meals around the protein. Here's the other thing. When you think about your results, the thing is, when you up your protein significantly and good healthy fats, you are not hungry. You're not hungry. So what seems like it could be really hard to change, it's not. And I will say, the first couple of weeks, I get these calls and I get these texts from clients who go, well, I'm kind of worried because like, I'm not hungry. And I'm like, that's the point, really.
Your body is learning how to work the right way again, right?
Yeah. And again, we never had snack. And again, I grew up in the era of 5 little meals, little snacks in between I even had like trainers telling me, make sure that and you're exactly what you just did, right? And your viewers know this. It's your blood sugar is going, it's like a massive roller coaster versus just a nice little hump, a dip, 2 to 3 times a day. So crazy.
It is, because if you look at my caloric intake and what I'm eating, you guys might be shocked, because there's days where I'm not joking, I might probably 3,500 calories.
Yes, steak and butter and eggs and salmon, which is a good fatty fish. I mean,
sardines.
Yeah. Oh, sardines are incredible. Honestly, the moment they're on sale and I get them, like filet in olive oil, I mean, they are, and your skin. Your skin. That is also like from an energy standpoint and a skin standpoint, that's what you get to see, like experience really quickly.
My thing too was with the fasting and everything, it's actually, like learning like, oh, it's actually allowing your body to use your own fat stores for energy. And then you're running on more ketones versus the sugar. And just, you would find, guys, like what I found is my mental focus is so much better.
Yeah.
Like my sleep is awesome. I had an old back injury from working at the nursing home that would bother me. Does not bother me anymore. And I mean, I've been a very healthy person who's not had stuff, but like even I had cystic acne that I used to get, and I would do facials, all this stuff. I haven't had a single flare up ever. No hormonal acne. It's gone. Yeah. It's kind of crazy. And even my cellulite has gotten better.
Because you're reducing the toxins, really. I mean, you're reducing all that inflammation. So like, I mean, it really is a game changer. And really, it's getting back to how we ate about 60 years ago when we were told that we needed to swap the butter out for the margarine.
Yeah.
We needed to eat, low fat, be really careful of protein, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, be very careful. And I would say at the end of the day, it really is about trying a few things.
Yes.
And then figuring out, oh my gosh, I feel a little bit better. Then continue. So it's what works for you. But there are, eating real food, reducing the inflammation, upping your protein, upping your healthy fats, and keeping those inflammatory seed oils and ingredients low, low, low. Not perfect, because that's almost impossible, but as low as possible.
Yeah, because I even found like eating this way, you would think that it would be more difficult. It's actually pretty simple because I'm not really having to think too much about what I'm gonna eat.
You can take a crock pot and you can throw like a grass-fed pot roast roast in it, or you could do, a bunch of chicken thighs or what, and do a little seasoning. Make sure you read the ingredients, make sure it's like real spices and not anti-caking agents or whatever.
Yes.
And then a little bit of chicken stock, and then go time. And you can add that to anything. So truly that is, especially for, my clients who work and just have these crazy schedules, that is like a saving grace. And you can do it and just mix it up every week. Pork, chicken, beef, go for it.
Oh yeah. We have half a cow. So it's like, it's the easiest thing ever.
It is.
You just pull it out. I was going to say.
And really affordable. If you think about it from going to the grocery store and getting meat versus, sharing a quarter of a cow, a half a cow, or there's other places that you can order multiple.
Yeah, that's just been simple. It seems like a lot of money up front because obviously you're initially paying for it, but really long term, it's definitely been cheaper and it's just been way easier.
Yeah.
The other thing too, when you're talking about sleep, that I think a lot of our clients too also don't understand is that like, if you're eating so close to bedtime, like you talked about, your body's doing all the things like of digesting the food. Yeah. So it's the other thing too is that insulin comes in, right? Because it has to address the blood sugar. But then what does it not allow? Melatonin to come in.
Right on. And you could experience a blood sugar dip then later on in the nighttime. So it messes with you.
People waking up with that.
Yeah. Yes. And it's usually like that 3 o'clock in the morning. It's exactly when you don't.
I gotta pee. I'm having this stuff going on. And yes, guys, that's actually what it can be related to.
Yeah.
So
it's really interesting. It's not necessarily for everyone, and I'm not recommending it for everyone, but nowadays you can actually, even if you don't have a prescription, you can get like a continuous glucose monitor. And that is an absolute wake-up call. So here's what I would say. If your doctor has recommended that you get one, if you're pre-diabetic or whatever, get it. Because it opens your eyes to what you thought was a healthy breakfast that set you up on your day, for example, or you get to eat something where you notice, I have energy longer, I'm fuller longer, and I don't have that like dip at like 10 o'clock in the morning. So I highly recommend it. It's because I have a lot of clients who are like, oh, they recommend it, but I haven't done. I'm saying do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and this too, obviously, and I've talked about this some with these guys. It's like these just being pre-diabetic or having elevated blood sugars. I think we've become so accustomed to just hearing that and like thinking that's normal.
Yeah.
That is the precursor. And what they're finding is to essentially every chronic disease.
Yeah.
And some of the most major diseases, like we're talking cancer.
Yeah.
Dementia.
Yeah. Yeah.
Heart disease. Like this is where it starts. It starts with the elevated insulin levels.
And really, if you look at all chronic illness, right? So if you look at, diabetes, heart disease, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, all of it, cancers, they all stem from, right, inflammation and hormone balance. So we've got to like cut it, get the insulin right, balance your blood sugar, and then watch what you're putting into your body. Again, not being perfect, but
yeah, it's kind of crazy. It's like I tell people the more you start to learn about insulin and how insulin works in your body, and how you can regulate that
with real food. True. Here's the secret that I think a lot of people didn't like. The food companies, big pharma, everything want us. Yeah. The big secret is eating well to really fuel your health is very simple. It's very simple. It's the food that comes from the earth. It's protein, good fat, and some low starch veggies. That's it. If you build meals out of that, you're going to notice that you're not hungry. You're going to notice your your blood sugar balancing, your skin clears up, your sleep gets better, everything. It's all, so we're told that all these symptoms, right, are caused by, and we need to take all this medication. And again, I'm not against medication. It's just, we can fix it. And once you know how to do it, it's very simple.
There you go, guys. So, and this is exactly why, like I've talked about, if you're going to be having a knee replacement, if you're going to be having a hip replacement, a back surgery, because I talked to them too, November, December, October are some of the busiest months for surgeries because, we met deductibles, we're getting them done. Yeah. And if you can go into those surgeries on a low inflammation diet and come out that way, how much more successful you're going to be.
The healing is like healing time is cut short. I mean, I would say I probably worked with 3 or 4 women who've actually had hysterectomies. And same thing. So their ultimate goal was, how do we set them up to eat as low inflammatory as possible so their healing time is like that? And it was. I mean, it's insane. So
bingo, because we're building back muscle. You don't have this big carb load, so you're not retaining all of this water and all the fluid, and then we're not getting all that sugar in there, which, guys, arthritis loves itself some sugar. Yeah. And cancer, dementia, all this stuff, like we're talking about. Yeah. Yes, it's literally what feeds it. So, and that's kind of where too, like we talked about the fasting, that was something that I found to just be so interesting too. Just like, if you guys, and Jenny's probably well-versed in this, I'll ask her about it, but if you've ever heard of autophagy, which is actually where your body goes in and cleans out the dead cells. That's how you help prevent cancer.
I mean, right on. And it's and there are ways. I mean, I think, don't be scared of fasting, because you can, and you can call it all sorts of things. You can call it time restricted eating. Yeah. It really is changing up your window for when you eat, and then see how you feel, and then watch how your body changes and how your body responds. And women do fast somewhat differently, and kind of respond to fasting a little bit different than men. There is, there are some great experts and some great books that really focus on that. So,
it's awesome. Well, and just letting your stomach like have a rest period. It's kind of crazy. It's like, oh, we should be eating.
Yeah. No, for sure. Well, and something else you said that I kind of want to tag on. I mean, we talked about sugar. Yeah. So, and I would guess that there are many of you out there who are saying, "Oh, I'm like addicted. Like like sugar has a hold on me."
It's made to be that way.
It is. It is, and it lights up the same part of the brain as like heroin or cocaine. I mean, it is absolutely addictive. And what's interesting is when you get it out of your diet, what happens is fruits, berries, things start to taste incredibly sweet. I mean, it's like it changes, your taste buds completely change, and you realize that you are in full control of your food choices, versus if you are a sugar addict. Yeah. And I've always liked more savory things, but I like starch. Starch turns to sugar. So, chips, bread, pasta, that's all sugar, right? So, but when you get away from it, I mean, that's when it's like you can go, oh, I want salmon, I want steak, and I'm totally fine with that, and I don't need anything more. And that apple tastes incredibly sweet.
Well, yeah, and it's kind of funny too, because if you go back, like if you've eaten this way, like for instance, we'll talk about Thanksgiving, like, and if I had a bit of dessert, I could have like a few bites of the pumpkin pie, and that might be all the more I want to eat, because it's so like overwhelming. Yeah, and I used to be a huge Diet Coke person. Yeah. Bad. But like, even if I'm like, oh, I want one, I'll have like 3 drinks, and I'm like, I don't.
Because you can taste the aspartame.
You can, neurotoxin, PS, shouldn't drink that stuff at all.
When you get the Diet Coke and those kind of, chemicals out, that's when like your joints like start to feel good, and you never realize that was one of the biggest causes of pain. It's crazy.
Yeah, when I was working, like you're talking about, when I was working in home care and I'm out seeing all of these patients and I'd be drinking my Diet Coke to like get me through the day, I started having this like numbness, tingling in my hands and feet and in my face. And I'm like, as a therapist, I'm like, oh my gosh, do I have MS?
Yeah.
Like that was actually, they think, the stress and then drinking the Diet Coke. The aspartame was damaging my nerves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I went cold turkey and guess what? It all went away.
Yeah, it is. It's really is. It's a poison. And so what it really is about getting used to something else. So I'm a recovering Diet Coke addict as well. But that, I think that's where something like a Spindrift comes in. And again, I really focus on water. I've got like my big stainless cup filled with water, you know, but I like occasionally to have a little sparkling. So
some little taste.
Yes.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, no, definitely. So you've got some little fun things here for us.
Yeah.
So could you elaborate?
So, okay, so here's how I look at snacks. Okay, so we don't need them, okay? But if you are hungry in between meals, this is how I approach it with my clients. We look at the previous meal and we go, all right, did I have enough protein? Did I have enough good fat? Did I have, you know, did I eat enough? And then that's your cue to the next time you made that meal, you make that meal again, to maybe add on another, you know, piece of meat or, you know, a little avocado or some nuts or whatever, just like build it out, enhance it. That's like your way of like learning how to feed yourself according to what your body needs. But if you're hungry in the meantime, I would say eat. It's not about restriction. It's not about starving ourselves or anything like that. So we all get caught occasionally in kind of a food emergency where we're out and about. We kind of didn't plan really well. It happens. It even happens to me. So I will say, you know, things like a grass-fed meat stick. They make turkey sticks. They make beef sticks. There are like more and more brands are coming out. So there's Chomps. This is Primal.
I do Chomps.
Yeah, Chomps, New Primal, and Paleo Valley are like my favorites. And you can get the New Primal ones and the Chomps at Kroger. I mean, so they're very, you know, they're out there. That's great because what's going to happen is you're going to get that little, you know, jolt of good, you know, protein, and your blood sugar is not going to spike. So that's great. Nuts. I mean, I don't know about you, but I can overdo it on nuts, and it is
you can just sit there, keep eating there.
So I do like a packet. Most nuts, if they're roasted, they'll be roasted in a seed oil. So you'll see peanut oil, canola oil, sunflower, safflower, soybean oil. We want to avoid all of that. This is the only brand, Karma, Karma, and you can buy it on Amazon.
Oh, awesome.
And it's just sea salt cashews, and they taste incredible. So those are like two things that I always have in my bag just as an emergency. And then again, like, you know, an apple, or think about like what is in season, you know. And I would say too, to even kind of eat these to get, because an apple can still spike your blood sugar a little bit. So have it with a protein and with a fat. So then you're getting, I mean, there's good quality, of course, with fruit, but be careful with that too, because we can overdo that.
Yeah, I was going to say too, I've heard a lot of people even talk about just with like, especially the fruit, like how it's now been so selectively bred that it's become super, super sweet. It is. It is.
So I mean, this is a bad example because this is a Honeycrisp apple.
Oh, and those are my favorite.
They're my favorite. They did not exist, you know, years and years ago, but they bred them to be, so they are. This is a lot higher in sugar. So I would, with a client who were really working to stabilize blood sugar, I would say a little bit of almond butter with that, or a little bit of nuts. Yeah.
So there you go, guys. There's another way of being able to do that. Yeah, because, and also understand too, if you've been somebody who's been eating like a highly processed diet, just transitioning to more fruits, vegetables, protein, get away from pop, cut back on the, you're gonna notice a lot of change.
You really are. And again, it's like thinking about like if a food came from the earth. If a food came from the earth, that's what we want to eat. If it came from a manufacturing plant, that's what we want. And again, I know that this, you know, this beef stick is a processed food. The ingredients, so there's two things you want to look at with the nutrition labels. You want to look at added sugars, and you want to look at ingredients. That's it. I mean, really, that's like the most important, pieces. So yeah.
I've heard a lot of times too, it's like the saying 5 ingredients or more, leave it at the store.
That's a great kind of rule of thumb. Yeah. But it's, again, if you don't have or wouldn't have those ingredients in your pantry, it's TBHQ or natural flavors or yellow dye number 9 or whatever, red 40, like if you're not going to have that as an ingredient in your home, don't buy food that has that.
That's a really great way of thinking about it
Yeah.
too. Well, I get it, because for so many people, I think it's just so overwhelming, especially like the older population that's just so used to thinking like, oh, well, if they're selling this, it must be healthy, or this must be okay.
And it's not, unfortunately. And I'll tell you, I mean, we're at a really interesting time, even politically.
Oh yeah.
Where things are going to change, I think, with what is being put in our food. So,
and I'm so happy for that.
Me too.
I'm really hoping it's trending more that direction.
Me too, because we shouldn't have to read every single label there is a reason why we're getting more and more sick and why our kids are getting more and more sick. So yeah, I'm really excited for this change. Yeah,
definitely. So a couple more questions here.
Sure.
Protein wise. Yeah. So like, I'm sitting here telling everybody you need to eat more protein. Mm-hmm. Protein powder, can protein bars, the problem is you think that they are actually a health food, and they really aren't.
They're a candy bar almost.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even taste as good.
No.
They're a candy bar that
no. And I was going to say, do you know of like a protein powder out there that is cleaner, or a protein bar that's cleaner that you could recommend? Especially like, let's say we have people coming back from surgery. They want something quick and easy.
Yeah, I do. So I'll tell you, I mean, the real food way to go is the best. So I think the easy go-tos, even before the protein powders and the protein bars, and I want to talk about that for a second, but if your body, so dairy is an iffy one for everyone. Yeah. So meaning not everyone, for many people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If you can tolerate some dairy, a high quality Greek yogurt, plain Greek yogurt where you can add your own frozen berries to and some nuts too. And that is like that 3/4 of a cup is 20 grams of protein. Yeah. So that is huge. And that is a great way, to start the day or to get some protein in if you don't have time to cook, whatever. The cottage cheese thing, it is incredibly hot. I can't do dairy, so I can't do it. Okay. But if you, do okay on dairy, and the ways to know that you do well on dairy is your skin does not react to it. You don't have this kind of constant clearing of your throat. You don't have lots of headaches. There's lots of symptoms that dairy but cottage cheese is another option for some people. Okay, so with the protein powders and protein bars, and honestly, if there's one question I get, that is the biggest question I get: what protein bar?
Yeah.
There is one that I've found that is better than the others. Here's what I will say. Even when I buy it, it becomes a crutch for me. So I really, truly don't recommend it because we should be eating real food. It is a processed food. So there's a company that I found they were selling it at a local coffee shop in Toledo, and it's RAR, RAWR bars, and it's called like RAR Organics. The only way to buy it is through their company's website that I found. That is the cleanest protein bar that I found. But again, it's not what I would recommend unless you are traveling or just off surgery and you need something quick. I have worked with several clients where our job, like the biggest goal was to get them off of the protein bar because they were relying on it for their meal, for their snacks. So be really cautious with the protein bar. Okay, with the protein powder. So again, the market is responding to all of you getting, more attuned to what's really happening with our food and our bodies. There's one company that I really like right now called Paleo Valley.
We have some of that.
Okay. Yeah. And so Paleo Valley is my favorite. They have a bone broth protein powder, and I get the unflavored. So I get the unflavored and I put it in, not everything, but I put it in my coffee. It actually tastes great. I mean, you can't really taste it, but it adds a creaminess. And again, that gives me 17 grams of protein, in my coffee. Now, you are breaking your fast. So just be cautious of that. If you have it you can put it in yogurt and then you're packing on a little bit more. You can put it in, if you can do a little oats, and you want to keep it, watch the sugar, watch the grains, but you can add it to oats. My daughter, who's 13, is a carbaholic, right? So that's what I sneak in, the unflavored. She doesn't even know it's in there, and we're getting in more protein. So it's a good thing to sneak in. And smoothies. I mean, I don't love smoothies at all. I mean, I just get really bored of them, especially in the winter. They're cold and we're cold. So I think, thinking about, but it's a real easy thing. You could throw, and I'll tell you, like, my favorite smoothie recipe would be the unflavored Paleo Valley, because again, one ingredient, and it's grass-fed, it's all good. One ingredient. And then I'll do, some frozen berries, a handful of greens, a little small handful of frozen avocados. You can buy those in the freezer section. It makes it really smooth. And then you're giving yourself good fat. Yeah. And then whatever nut milk or, milk that you can kind of tolerate. And that's my favorite. And it's not super sweet, but it's just, if you need it a little sweet, I encourage you to get away from that. But if you need it, you could put like a little bit of pure maple syrup or a little bit of honey in it.
Yeah. When it comes to nut milk, so do you have a good organic, like almond milk that doesn't have a ton of ingredients in it?
Yeah. So there is a brand that is pretty easy to find. It's called Califa, Califa. Okay. Now you have to buy the organic one. The organic Califa unsweetened almond milk. You can get it at, Meijer doesn't usually have it, so it's usually Kroger. Okay. And I've been told Walmart, but don't hold me to that. Okay. The organic one has almonds and water. The non-organic one has gums and emulsifiers. So you want to, and there's another brand that if you're, either Thrive Market, which you can get on, online, or Churchill's in the, Northwest Ohio, small boutique, Whole Foods sells. Elmhurst is the brand, Elmhurst. And the cool thing about Elmhurst is they have almond milk, cashew milk, hazelnut, walnut, because again, we don't really want to eat the same thing all the time because one, we're getting the exact same nutrients. So we're not diversifying, right? Our, the nutrients we need, and we could get food sensitivities that way. So I like that. The trouble is they're not cheap. So, and those ingredients in that brand are just water and nut.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And here's the thing. I mean, you could take like hemp seed. You can get like a little bit of hemp seed and water and a little sea salt and even a little vanilla and put it in a blender, and you've made like hemp milk.
Interesting.
You could do it with almonds too, and then you just have to strain it. It's messy. There are little devices that you can get that make almond milk, and sometimes it's from an affordability standpoint, it makes more sense, to do it. It's just they're a little bit messy. So I have not invested in one. So
interesting. Well, we have talked about a lot of things for you guys today, but I think Jenny being able to give you these tips, give you more of this insight, thank you so much for that. And I hope you guys understand too, like where I'm coming from when I'm talking about the low inflammation diet, and just how much being proactive with your diet, being proactive with your lifestyle can have huge repercussions for you long term, like in every facet of your life, mobility, cognition, so many things. And, you guys are always hearing me tell you, and just like what you said, I can't make you do this, but I want to give you the tools to make you curious. I want you to be your own advocate. I want you to invest in yourself. I want you to be able to be the hero of your own health. So hopefully we were able to do that today. So thank you so much, Jenny, for chatting with us. What I'm going to go and do is I will make sure I have all of her information linked below. Jenny is here in Northwest Ohio, but she sees people virtually.
Yeah, I do.
So you can really get her anywhere if you have more additional nutrition counseling questions. So
That's true.
thank you for joining us, guys.
Thank you.